Hi everybody, I'm Bob Roll. Welcome to my living room. I'm going to answer some questions from the Road ID faithful out there. The first one is from Isabel Langlaise, and she asks, what would have been your greatest defeat? And when it happened, did you think about retiring from professional cycling? Well, I can clearly remember my greatest defeat. It happened in Cardiff Castle during the Tour of Britain. The champion of Belgium at the time, Paul Hagedorn, had broken away from the field. Paul was very strong, but not a very fast sprinter, so I thought that's a good chance to win a stage. I bridged up to Paul. We worked together, and we sprinted it out for the line in Cardiff Castle. It was a cobble section, and there was a bit of a really dangerous turn just before the finish. And I had done the majority of the work in the breakaway. And I thought to myself, well, Paul, he must know that I'm the superior sprinter, so he shouldn't even try for the stage win. Well, Paul jumped very hard before that last corner, which surprised me a little bit, but I got on his wheel and I came around him, and about 50 yards from the finish line, right when I had the victory in my grasp, my pedal popped and my shoe came off of the pedal. And I tried to win with one leg as I sprinted forward. Unfortunately, my chain had fallen off of the chain rings, so there was nothing to transmit power into the back wheel, and I lost to Paul Hagedorn by about that much. That was my most horrible defeat. I thought about quitting on the spot. In fact, I threw my bike about 20 feet up in the air and tried to destroy it. The bike withstood the punishment, so the next day, of course, I had to start again. I didn't win that stage either. I would have to wait a whole nother year to win my first professional bike race. And I didn't think about stopping, but maybe I should have. I could have started doing TV earlier that way. The next question comes from Dwayne Diker. What do you miss most and least from your days as a professional rider? That's an easy one. What I miss the most is the camaraderie that you share with your teammates when you're racing professional bikes over in Europe, especially for us, the first American team to compete in the Tour de France, the 711 squad. It was the teamwork, and it was the mutual respect that we had for each other, and the camaraderie that we developed in a very difficult circumstance, and trying to overcome incredibly long odds against the European professionals. We did a great ride in the Tour of Italy in 1988, and Andy Hampsten won that and remains to this day the only American to win the Giro. So that was probably what I missed the most about it, is having your teammates around you and everybody supporting each other and trying your best to withstand the onslaught of the European racers. I don't miss racing in the rain at all. I was fairly pitiful when it came to racing in the rain. If it was cold, that was no problem. Cold and dry, no problem. But the rain and the wet, it just seeped into my muscles and made me seize up. And racing in the rain in Europe is a very brutal proposition, and I'm glad I never have to do that again. Third question from Tom Meadows. The vigorous requirements of the Tour certainly take away from the experience and beauty of France. Do you ever go back and ride the route just to see what you've missed? That's a great question. Riding in the peloton in the Tour, you go across the most beautiful countryside that you could ever imagine riding a bike through. The Pyrenees, the Alps, the big flowers, the big sunflowers, and endless fields of lavender, especially in the Provence. And the north of France has its beauties as well. But as a racer, you never get a chance to look at any of that. You're just riding on the wheel in front of you, trying to survive to the end of the stage. And although I haven't yet, I have always planned on going back to France and following the route at my pace, at a leisurely pace, and just take in the sights. And I have saved all the maps from those tours that I rode, and each year they give the riders a map of the country and they mark out the route on each road, and it's a very detailed map. So one of these days I'm going to go back and enjoy the Tour at a much slower pace. Another question here from Ross Mathis. How many tacos can you eat? Well, just like Cool Hand Luke, I can eat 50 tacos in 1 hour. I'm just kidding. I can't eat 50 tacos. It would take me about a month to eat 50 tacos. I think I could probably put away 8 or 9 though. And if I was really pressed, I bet I could eat 20 tacos. If they had the frijoles refritos, I might have to say 6 or 7. Thank you, Ross. A very nice question. Here's the most important question, though, from Ann Prindle. What's your best line of defense for drivers who harass you on the road? Passing too closely, failure to yield the right-of-way, inattentiveness due to cell phone use, throwing things at you, cat calls, etc., etc. Personally, I try to keep my in check and smile and wave as much as possible. I mentor new riders with team in training and would love to share some expert advice with them. This is a very important point that you bring up. For me, the number one thing to do is avoidance. Do not have a conflict with any driver. Try as best you can to avoid that. You have no idea what sort of agenda they might have, why they are inattentive, passing too closely, menacing, catcalling, and you have no idea knowing what they have in their vehicle with them in the form of, like you said, things to throw at cyclists or much worse than that. Avoidance and keeping those conflicts to an absolute minimum are essential. What I find a lot of times, riders will, even in single file, move to one side of the wheel in front of them or the other. And that gives the car drivers the impression that you're 2 or 3 people abreast when in fact you're all in single file. So try as best as you can to sit on the wheel in front of you and not waver out into the road at all. That makes it a little bit more difficult to see the obstacles in front. So you have to trust the riders in your group that they will point out things in the road so you can avoid them, even though you're sitting right on the wheel. It does obstruct your vision a little bit, but it makes it much easier for cars behind to see that it is a single file and that they can pass safely. Avoidance and single file, and also I would say obey the traffic laws. Stop at stop signs, stop at red lights. Even if you're turning right, stop at that red light, make sure it's clear before you go. All of those things will enable drivers and you to coexist much more peaceably out on the roads. It's dangerous out there, and we as cyclists need to do everything that we can do in order to provide a safe environment for the people that we ride with and for ourselves, of course. Be careful out there, and don't forget your road ID.